But why not think that being human is being more compassionate rather than judgmental, being more understanding and accepting rather than... Hi there, Zesties! You're listening to the Gleeful Talkshow, where we share zesty stories to cultivate the happiness and hero within and out. In this podcast, we share about personal experiences, pop culture, and societal impacts. So if these are the topics that you are interested in, then please do keep on listening and subscribe to the show. Thank you so much for your tremendous support, most especially for the last 2 episodes that have garnered more than 80% of our average weekly downloads. Thank you so much for our new listeners, and please do click the follow or subscribe button, share to your friends, and leave us a review. Thanks so much also for our monthly patrons for supporting the show by keeping me caffeinated. You know how much I love coffee. If you guys are interested in supporting me and the show, please click on the link on the episode notes and it'll take you to a donation page. I am also on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But those of you who might not know, I've really been cutting on social media lately, so I'm not posting as much as I should have, and marketing this podcast has been lower in my priority list than my mental health. So yes, if I don't post as much, guys, that doesn't mean that the podcast isn't active. So head down to your favorite podcast platform and follow me so that you can get notified on new episodes. You can also go to my website, gleefultalkshow.com, to listen in. And if you are interested in following me outside of this podcast, please follow my blog, theambivertlife.com. Now, let's get into it. A lot has happened during the past few weeks, and one thing that stood out to me was the news about Jennifer Aniston. She's remained so strong amidst all of the false rumors about her, and finally, she set the record straight. I admire her for her strength and her candidness on this. So, for those who might not be aware, Jennifer Aniston has recently shared that she was having issues with fertility and called on women to freeze their eggs before it's too late. She said that she would have given anything if someone had said to her to freeze her eggs and do herself a favor, but that ship has already sailed for her. So now she's calling out to the women who need this advice as much as they can. On her late 30s and 40s, she was actually trying to get pregnant, and it was a challenging road for her. After decades of speculation about her maternity, she has finally revealed that she actually has gone through IVF, or in vitro fertilization. She even drank Chinese teas and so on just to get pregnant. So can you imagine that? And I guess because she wanted it so badly, she tried a lot of things but didn't really was able to get there. The public eye can be very judgmental whether you are a celebrity or not, more so when you are a celebrity. Oh, the price of fame. I did hear rumors before from the media that she didn't want to have children. That's why Brad Pitt has left her for Angelina, because Angelina loves children and she even has a lot of them, right? Both adopted and now blood related. And Jennifer added that the narrative about her was that she was selfish and just cared about her career. This comment is interesting, by the way, Zesties. Quote, "And God forbid a woman is successful and doesn't have a child," unquote. What the F? She said that the world creates narratives that aren't true, so she's coming out of her hibernation to tell her truth. Good on you, Jennifer. Good on you. I totally agree with her, though, Zesties. People really, especially the people who don't know you well, they are the people who mostly create a version of you or their version of the narrative on their heads. And I think because it's easier for those people to rationalize it on their heads because they don't understand what's behind the curtain, right? Although society has slightly changed now compared to years before, slightly a little more accepting of alternative views, most people still have the notion of female equals motherhood in their minds, as this notion has been passed on from mother to daughter throughout generations. I totally respect those women who chose to go to the motherhood route, and I have equal respect for those who don't. I'd like to say and believe that gone are the days where women are seen as to be bearers of children only. And if they don't have one, then they are not complete. This I wanted to believe. But I think society is not entirely there yet. I can still see and hear people talking about the essence of motherhood, and you can only be happy when you have a child, yada yada yada. Excuse me, you should be happy first before having a child, right? Bearing children is not a easy feat, and you need to be resilient enough to raise your child appropriately and properly. The problem with society nowadays, I feel, is that it is so consumed of the idea of motherhood, the idea of bearing children, to a point that motherhood is sometimes romanticized and sometimes less emphasis on the actual raising of a child. The proverbial example would be a couple who has been together for years, and then people will always ask, when are you getting married? And when they get married, people will ask, and when will you have a child? And when they will have a child or their first child, people will again ask, when are you planning to have the second one? Well, hold your horses, people. So to me, the point is, more emphasis should be done in raising children, not just manufacturing or bearing them, because these children are the future generation, right? The stigma around women deciding not to have children, I believe, should be eradicated. I feel more scrutiny should be towards those adults who carelessly have one. Again, emphasis on the carelessness, not the naivete. Why? What's the difference? Well, carelessness is those who have the means, the knowledge, but not the application. For example, when you have sex without protection, then eventually something will happen, right? But what if you are someone who doesn't know or who doesn't have the means nor knowledge of what a protection is? Then that's a different story. And I'm coming from maybe for those countries who don't have that adequate sex education. And that's why we cannot totally blame them. And this is where I feel that the government or perhaps concerned citizens should intervene and educate the people. On the former, the people who have the knowledge and all the means and etc., then one should stop and ponder on their actions. Another thing I noticed about society is that they tend to stigmatize parents who decide to have kids when they are way older. I hear people say, quote, "Oh, I can't believe that 50-year-old looking lady is fetching her 2-year-old kid. Why did she have kids when she's already too old?" Unquote. Dear, you don't know the story of that 50-year-old lady. Why are you judging? I knew someone way back. She was maybe around early 40s when she had her first kid, and she had to stop work and had to be in bed rest just to avoid getting stressed in order to have a safer delivery and a safer 9-month period of having the baby. So she only had her kid later in life, so why not, right? From what I knew back then, she was having issues in having children, and that's why it took a while for her to have one. I mean, people have different stories, different preferences. different bodies. If we avoid judging each other and instead support one another, the world will be a less shitty place to live in. I do hope that people, as much as possible, respect other people's preferences and not think that their preference is the optimum, because everyone are in different stages of their life. Not everyone would like to be a parent, and why not leave that job to those who really want to be one, right? In the Philippine culture, for sure, everyone after marriage is expected to have kids, and people at some point would judge or pity you for not having one. And I guess that's just human nature. But come on, humans, do we just accept that it's purely human nature and not try to be better humans instead? And we always say that as humans, we're judgmental, etc., etc. But why not think that being human is being more compassionate rather than judgmental, being more understanding and accepting rather than unaccepting? I don't know. So that's just something to ponder on again. Anyway, Zesties, I've dug a little bit about this egg freezing procedure because of Jennifer Aniston's revelations. And this might not interest you or might interest you, but here's a little bit of science into this. So, how does this egg freezing work? Based on my research, the first step is ovarian stimulation, and this step is done through assisted reproductive technology to seek the growth and maturation of the eggs. There are actually two categories of assisted reproductive technology, the high complexity and the low complexity. As the name suggests, high complexity would have higher success rates, and the most common of which is the in vitro fertilization or IVF. During IVF, eggs and sperm are mixed in a laboratory dish to fertilize. Some of the fertilized eggs, those little zygotes, are then transferred to the uterus. There are other types of assisted reproductive techniques as well that includes intracytoplasmic sperm injection or ICI. Basically, injecting a single sperm to an egg. So there would be no chance to have twins, I guess, on this one. It can be used during IVF to help fertilize an egg. Then the zygote is placed to the uterus or fallopian tube. Another one is, brace yourself, Zesties. This is going to be a little bit technical, but necessary as part of the episode. And it is called gamete intrafallopian transfer or GIFT, GIFT. It involves collecting eggs from the ovaries, then placing them into a thin, flexible tube with the sperm then injected into the fallopian tubes where the fertilization takes place. The third type is the zygote intrafallopian transfer or ZIFT. The eggs and the sperm are mixed outside of the body using IVF methods. The fertilized eggs or zygotes are then returned to the fallopian tubes through which they travel to the uterus. Oh, happy little zygotes! Then after the first step of ovarian stimulation comes the egg retrieval. The follicle aspiration is performed to retrieve mature eggs. Then egg cryopreservation, where the eggs are freezed at negative 320.8 Fahrenheit or negative 196 Celsius. So it looks like this is the hibernation stage of the egg so that they can be preserved like good as new or just being there inside the woman's body, but not really, right? So I wonder whether if humans would like to be preserved like the ones in the show Altered Carbon. Raise your hands if you've seen this. If that's the preservation temperature as well. The fourth step is safeguarding the mature eggs in nitrogen banks, where you have to actually pay a yearly rental fee until you decide to fertilize the eggs. Whew, that's a lot of procedures. From what I heard from different ladies who have undergone this process, it's such a painful and draining process, both physically and, of course, financially. The cost of which depends on where you live, of course, but from what I gathered here in Australia, Of course, all IVF costs vary depending on the circumstances, what services and treatments you require, whether or not you have private health insurance, and what coverage is available from Medicare. But as a benchmark, one IVF cycle can cost 8,000 to 10,600 Australian dollars, and out-of-pocket costs would cost as much as 4 to 5,000 Australian dollars. Then that's only the first cycle, Zesties. Such fees also do not include day surgery or anesthetics and can cost an additional 2,000 Australian dollars. This might be covered by your private health, depending on your cover, and frozen embryo transfer could cost 3,600 per transfer. Okay? Basically, it's a lot of money, so one should be prepared if they like to undergo such procedure. But if that's what you really want to be a mother, then it's all worth it. But if society is the only driver for you to become one, then it's not worth it. Remember, Zesties, motherhood is a big decision and no woman should feel pressured into making this choice. Unfortunately, sometimes, human as we are, you get pressured into these things and eventually you will catch up on wanting to be a mom. That's what I hear from other people as well. So I wish you the best of luck, aspiring mothers and women of the world. How about you, Zesties? Do you have any story or opinion around this topic? Please share your responses via email or in a 1-minute audio format to gleefultalkshow@gmail.com. For those sending in an audio format, please record in a quiet environment and keep it to a minute. Your responses might get picked to be read in future episodes. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, no matter how much it might be a bit scientific and might give you insights into what are the IVF procedures available out there. And maybe perhaps if you don't want to be a mom or anything, know that you're not alone. There are definitely people out there who share your sentiment, and I hope that everyone who listens to this episode, if they know someone struggling, they would be much more compassionate towards them and more understanding. So that's it for this episode, and thank you so much for listening.